I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped into our house. Not because it smelled different or looked emptier, though it did. Not because of the silence echoing down the hallway like an omen. No, it was her smile. That smug, crooked, self-satisfied little smirk playing on Ashley's lips like she just won a damn war. "Welcome home, Ethan," she said sweetly, leaning against the kitchen island like she hadn't just flipped our lives upside down. "I made a major business move while you were away." I dropped my travel bag and narrowed my eyes. "What did you do?" Her smile widened. She walked toward me, heels tapping with deliberate arrogance. "I sold your jewels." I blinked. "What?" "Your entire collection," she added. "Every piece of it. The sapphires, the rubies, even that ridiculous antique watch set. They funded my empire." I laughed. I couldn't help it. A hard, guttural sound shot out of me, like disbelief needed an exit. "You sold my collection?" "The one I inherited from my grandfather." "That dusty old pile?" She scoffed, waving her hand. "I needed capital. Real capital. You were gone playing family man in Arizona. I made moves." "Are you insane?" My voice cracked, the fury crawling up my spine like fire ants. "That collection was worth—" "I know exactly what it was worth," she interrupted coldly, crossing her arms. "Millions. And I made them work. That was the first bomb, but it wasn't the last." She strutted past me like I was invisible, poured herself a drink, and glanced back with zero remorse. "Ethan, I know you think I should have asked, but you wouldn't have let go. You were clinging to a fantasy, some sentimental museum. I'm building something real, and you funded it with theft." She laughed now, light and cruel. "Oh, please. You never even touched them. They were dusty, Ethan. Symbols of who you used to be. I gave them a purpose." I stared at her, trying to find the woman I married. The Ashley I knew had ambition, sure, but she also had empathy. Or at least I thought she did. But this version of her? Ice. Steel. Pure venom. Still, the jewelry wasn't even the worst part. That came 10 minutes later, when I walked into the bedroom and noticed the drawer where I kept the safe key was open. Wide open. I moved to the closet, fingers trembling, yanked the door, and stopped breathing. All my suits were shoved aside. There was a duffel bag tucked behind my shoeboxes. I pulled it out. Inside, men's clothes that weren't mine. Cologne that reeked of musk and ego. A phone charger for a brand I didn't use. And a bracelet. Gold. Worn. Definitely not mine. "Ashley," I warned. No answer. I stomped back into the kitchen. She was texting someone, calm as a cloud. When she looked up, she saw the bag in my hands and arched an eyebrow like I was the intruder. "Whose stuff is this?" She tilted her head. "None of your business." That answer broke something in me. I slammed the bag onto the counter. "So you're not even gonna lie? No made-up cousin visiting? No fake story about a friend crashing for the night?" She looked me dead in the eye. "I'm tired of lying to make you feel better." Silence hit the room like a thunderclap. You cheated on me?" She sipped her drink. I upgraded. My breath stopped. "Who is he?" She smiled again. That same vile smile. "You'll meet him soon. He's coming by later." Like hell he was. I walked out the back door, down the driveway, into the street where I could breathe. My hands were shaking. My heart pounded so violently it hurt. Betrayal hit me in waves. First anger, then disbelief, then something black and dangerous that whispered, "Burn it all down." I looked up at the sky, blinking fast. And then I remembered something. That collection, the one she said she sold? She hadn't touched the real vault. What she sold were the replicas. The fakes I had made for insurance purposes. The real jewels? Still locked in the hidden floor safe at my office. She had no idea. I exhaled, the first trace of a smirk on my lips. "You think you played me, Ashley," I muttered under my breath. "But sweetheart, the game just started." I didn't go back inside right away. I sat in my truck, knuckles clenched around the steering wheel, mind racing through everything Ashley had said and everything she hadn't. The woman I left a week ago wasn't the one standing in my kitchen with another man's scent in her sheets. She didn't just betray me. She mocked me, sold off my supposed treasure like it was hers to begin with, and then admitted, without a shred of shame, that she'd replaced me. And now, she had the audacity to say he's coming over. Not on my watch. I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew was that I couldn't let her walk all over me in my own house. So I sat there for 20 minutes, cooled my rage just enough to see straight, then stepped out of the truck and walked back inside. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Deep, masculine, cocky laughter, followed by her voice, sweet and flirtatious like it hadn't been for me in over a year. I stopped in the hallway, heart thudding. "He's not going to be a problem?" the man asked. Ashley laughed. "Ethan? He's harmless. Still clinging to those dusty jewels like they mean anything. I told you, I made a business move. That empire's ours now. Ours." I stepped into the living room. He was tall, shaved head, fake designer watch, and a grin that made my fists curl. He sat on my couch, with his hand on her thigh like he owned the place. Ashley, in one of my shirts, didn't even flinch. Well, he said, standing slowly. "You must be the ex." I didn't blink. "Still the husband. For now." Ashley rolled her eyes. "Ethan, don't make this dramatic. You're good at numbers, not confrontation." I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt calculation. "I'm not here to fight," I said, walking past them. "Just grabbing a few things." "Good," she said. "Because we're celebrating tonight. Big investors came through. Your little vault helped launch a real business." I paused. "Oh, I'm sure it did." As I went to the bedroom, I heard her whisper something to him. Something like he'll be out soon, then we can finish. My stomach turned, but I kept moving. I grabbed the spare keys to the office from the drawer she never looked in. My office was my haven, the only place untouched by her ambition or her lies. The real jewelry, worth millions, was still there, resting under a false floor behind locked steel. All documented, all safe. And now, that secret was my shield. I returned to the living room. "I'm heading out." "You should," Ashley said, not even looking at me. "It's about time." He grinned. "Take care, champ." I almost laughed. Instead, I opened the front door and said without turning, "By the way, you didn't sell anything. Not the real stuff. You pawned junk." Silence. I stepped out and shut the door behind me hard. That night, I didn't sleep. I drafted emails. I called my lawyer. I gathered every receipt, appraisal, and insurance document proving the fakes had been placed intentionally, duplicates for legal protection. And Ashley? She'd unknowingly signed off on the whole scheme when she tried to act smart and filed a fake business registration under both our names, which meant I was a majority stakeholder in her so-called empire. The next morning, I called the police. Because technically, she'd committed fraud. The officers showed up just after lunch. I didn't tell them to go in guns blazing. I didn't need a scene. Just facts. I handed them every document. Proof of ownership, photographs, timestamps, vault inventory, insurance papers, and the kicker, a recording from my office security cam, timestamped the same day Ashley claimed to have sold my jewels. The detective reviewed everything twice. "So you're saying your wife sold imitation jewelry, thinking it was real, and used that money to start a company under both your names?" "That's correct," I said calmly. "She had no authority, and she lied about the assets. I want to press charges for fraud and asset misappropriation." "Understood," he nodded. "We'll contact her and start the process." I could have smiled, but I didn't. I wasn't doing this out of revenge. This was about balance. She thought she was 10 steps ahead. But while she was busy playing entrepreneur, I was playing chess. Meanwhile, Ashley must have sensed something shift. Around 3 p.m., I got a message. "What did you do?" I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. I ignored it. By the 6th call, she left a voicemail. Voice trembling. "Ethan, I think the police just left my office. They took some files. This isn't funny. You're ruining everything. Call me." I didn't. Instead, I walked into the office, opened the vault, and stared down at my real inheritance. Untouched, glimmering, quietly patient. Unlike Ashley, these jewels never lied. They'd waited. I picked up the antique watch, my grandfather's favorite, and slipped it onto my wrist. It still ticked like nothing had happened. When I got home that evening, she was waiting in the driveway, mascara smudged, wearing the same smug face, but now twisted with panic. "What did you do?" she hissed again. "The cops froze our accounts." "Our?" I asked, stepping around her. "You know what I mean." "No," I said, opening the door. "I think I finally don't." She followed me inside like a shadow that couldn't take the sun. "Ethan, listen. I didn't know they weren't real. I thought." "You thought you were clever," I interrupted. "You thought you could strip me bare, fund your little boyfriend's empire, and walk away with a smile. You played dirty, Ashley. Now the game's over." "You think you'll win in court?" she snapped. "I don't have to go to court," I said, pulling a folder from the kitchen drawer. Because you already signed everything I needed. Remember this? The business agreement you didn't read? You gave me controlling interest. Her face paled. I walked past her, calm, deliberate. You want to live off someone else's back? Then deal with the consequences. Your lover can't save you now. She stood frozen in the doorway. I didn't say another word. Just like that, the empire she thought she built began to crumble, one paper at a time. And the woman who tried to bury me in betrayal was now the one gasping for air. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked upstairs and closed the door. The next few days felt like a silent storm. I didn't reach out. Didn't react. I simply moved. I met with my attorney again and handed over everything. Ashley's forged signatures, the business filings in both our names, the bank transactions from the pawnshops, even screenshots of her texts to her lover bragging about how he won't know what hit him. Every piece, perfectly documented. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about control, peace, and watching her little throne made of lies collapse under its own weight. By the 5th day, she was locked out of every business account. The shared office lease? Voided. Utilities? Transferred. Her name was off the company registry, replaced by mine. The domain she used for her online storefront? Redirected. Now anyone who clicked on it got a blank white page with 2 words in bold, access denied. She showed up again that night. No knock. Just banged on the door like a madwoman. I opened it slowly, keeping the chain latch on. Her eyes were wild, lips trembling. This wasn't the Ashley who used to lecture me about emotional maturity. This was a cornered animal. You can't do this, she yelled. It was my idea. I built it. No, Ashley, I said, voice calm. You stole it. That's the difference. You humiliated me, she snapped. I was going to take us both to the top, until you started acting like some jealous accountant. That made me laugh, quietly. Jealous? You brought your side piece into my house. Slept with him in my bed. Sold what you thought was my legacy. And you want to talk about humiliation? Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to hurt you. Yes, I said, locking eyes with her, you did. You just didn't expect me to hurt back. She stepped back like I slapped her. You know what? She said, straightening up. You're pathetic. Sitting up there thinking you're a king now? You'll never be anything but a man who needed his daddy's toys to matter. I didn't flinch. Because that was her final weapon, words. That venom she spat when she had nothing left. I stared at her one last time. Then I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I closed it. A clean, simple ending to a story that should have ended the day she decided I was disposable. Later that night, I sat in my home office, whiskey in hand, flipping through the old inventory list. The real jewels were back where they belonged. Safe. Silent. But more than that, they were mine. Not because of their value, but because of what they represented. She had tried to turn my legacy into fuel for her fantasy. Instead, she lit the match that burned her castle down. And I walked away without a single burn. A week passed. Then 2. Ashley didn't call again. She knew the line was dead. Her lover, Travis, I found out his name through a background check, had gone radio silent too. Turns out he had a record. Nothing serious, but enough to raise eyebrows. Fraud, evasion, 2 restraining orders. She picked a real winner. Perfect match, really. She deserved someone who lies for sport. Someone who'd steal your wallet while kissing your neck. Me? I was done. Not broken. Not bitter. Just done. But healing. That was something else entirely. It's strange. When the screaming ends, the quiet hurts more. I found myself waking up at 2 a.m. out of habit, expecting to hear her brushing her teeth or cursing at her phone. Instead, the silence wrapped around me like ice. Every room reminded me of something she poisoned. The couch where she once curled up to cry during movies? She sat there with him. The kitchen island where we made dumb little Sunday pancakes? She leaned on it when she told me she sold my soul. I started boxing things up, not out of spite, just necessity. Her perfume bottles, her fake books, that one vase she claimed was imported but had a Target sticker underneath. Each item dropped into a cardboard box like a closing line in a story that ran too long. But even as I packed her life away, I couldn't pack the memory of that smirk. That arrogant smirk when she said, "They funded my empire." She thought she'd built something indestructible. She thought I was weak, sentimental. She gambled that I wouldn't fight back. But she never understood me. I don't yell. I don't punch walls. I calculate. And now, her empire had debts it couldn't cover. Vendors wanted refunds. Partners pulled out once the fraud report landed on their desks. The man she thought was her co-founder ghosted her once she lost access to the accounts. Word got out fast. She went from smug to silent in a matter of days. I saw her once after that. By accident. I was walking out of my lawyer's office, and there she was, across the street, standing in the cold in some oversized coat, holding a coffee like it could keep her warm through bankruptcy. We made eye contact. She froze. And I just nodded. Not out of pity, not out of hate, but closure. Because in that one glance, she saw everything she gave up, and everything I reclaimed. 3 months later, the divorce papers were finalized. She didn't contest them, too busy cleaning up her public mess to fight in court. Her empire was now a punchline in investor circles. One article called it a startup built on illusions and knockoff stones. That line made me chuckle out loud when I read it. She walked away with almost nothing. No alimony, no equity, no shares. Just her last name, which I knew she'd eventually drop the moment someone richer came along. My attorney said I played it well. Clean, cold, precise. I didn't respond. Because winning doesn't always feel like victory. Some nights I still stared at the ceiling and asked myself how I didn't see it. How did I live beside someone who could lie that easily? How many times did she kiss me, compliment me, pretend she believed in me, while plotting something behind her eyes? But then, one morning, I woke up and didn't feel that weight. The bitterness was gone. I went downstairs, brewed some coffee, and opened the curtains like I hadn't done in weeks. Sunlight hit the room differently. Clearer, sharper, like everything had been scrubbed clean. That same day, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. Inside was a single photo, her and Travis, arms wrapped around each other in front of a for lease sign taped on the glass of what used to be her office. On the back, in the same pen, she wrote, "Hope it was worth it." No apology, no regret, just ego, still gasping for air. I burned the photo. That night, I took out my grandfather's antique watch again. Wound it. Listened to the tick. Every second was like a heartbeat returning to rhythm. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't haunted. I was ready. Ready to rebuild. Not just my business or my trust, but myself. There's something powerful about surviving betrayal and standing up taller afterward. Not because you forget, but because you learn. You sharpen. You never hand over the keys to your kingdom again. Not to a liar. Not to a thief. Not to a woman who smirks while she guts your legacy. Let them sell illusions. I'll keep building reality. I started traveling again, something I hadn't done since before Ashley. At first, just small trips, Chicago for a weekend, Denver for a business meetup, then a full week in Austin. Each city felt like a reset button, wiping off another layer of her residue from my mind. By the time spring came around, I was speaking at conferences, sharing how I'd taken a near-bankruptcy scare and turned it into a self-made rebuild. I never named her. I didn't need to. The people who mattered knew the truth, and the rest? They could draw their own conclusions from the confidence I walked in with now. One night after a talk, a woman named Rachel approached me. Warm smile, sharp eyes, none of that fake politeness Ashley used to wear like lipstick. She said, "You don't sound like a man who got burned. You sound like someone who learned to walk through fire." I remember laughing. There's no better teacher than betrayal. We talked for hours that night. Not about wounds or revenge, but about rebuilding, habits, passions. She asked questions Ashley never cared about. My favorite books, my mother's cooking, what music helped me focus. It was the first time in a long while that I wasn't looking over my shoulder, wondering what game was being played. Rachel wasn't a reward for the pain. I don't believe in that. But she was proof that you can step out of the ashes without dragging the fire with you. One evening back home, I walked past the closet where the fake jewelry replicas used to be. The drawer was empty now, but I smiled anyway, because it reminded me just how far I'd come. Ashley thought she was clever, thought she broke me, but she didn't understand. Some of us don't crack when pressure hits. We sharpen, and I had become a blade. Let her live in the past, chasing echoes of a failed empire. I'm not there anymore. I'm moving forward. And this time, no one's selling my legacy but me. 6 months to the day after Ashley sold what she thought was my future, I stood on the rooftop of my new office building, 10 stories above the city, glass walls reflecting a sunset she'd never see from here again. The company I rebuilt wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud, but it was real, profitable, mine. I hired people who believed in the grind, not the spotlight. People who didn't smile in your face while drawing knives behind their back. No more masks. No more parasites pretending to be partners. Sometimes I wondered what Ashley told herself at night. Maybe she convinced herself she was justified. Maybe she still thought I'd come crawling back one day, begging for closure. But the truth? She was just a chapter. A cruel one. But still just a chapter. The final box I kept from our old life sat unopened in the corner of my study for months. Tonight, I finally pulled it out. Inside, a photo album, dusty, barely touched. One of the last things she hadn't thrown away or stolen. I flipped through it. Our wedding day. The honeymoon. Random vacations where I thought she was happy. In every photo, I could see it now, those little signs. The performative smiles. The cold distance in her eyes when she thought I wouldn't notice. It was all right there. I just didn't want to see it. I closed the album, tossed it into the fireplace, watched it burn. That was the goodbye I never gave her. Not in court, not through text, not at the door she once slammed on her way out of my life. This was it. Quiet, clean, absolute. So what did I learn? I learned that love without loyalty is a loaded gun. That trusting the wrong person can cost you more than money. It can drain your soul. But I also learned something far more powerful. You don't have to stay broken. You don't have to become what hurt you. You just have to outgrow it. So here's my advice. If someone betrays you, don't chase them. Don't argue. Don't beg. Build. Because one day, while they're stuck in the ruins of what they destroyed, you'll be looking down from something they'll never reach. And that's the only revenge that ever really matters.